moved.
All right, discoveries in the amount of $2,596.86 and releases totaling $6,015.85.
All right, we have those as presented as discoveries and releases. We have a motion to accept these.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further question or comment on these as presented? Okay, all approved, signify by the hand. All opposed, like sign. All right, Mr. Manager.
Next on your agenda, you have the addendum to personnel policy in regards to conditions of employment. This is, Kim, help me out here. There's some additional amendments. We already voted on the military leave.
We did. This is the one that the personnel will sign. We talked about this due to North Carolina General Statute 159. You'll be adopting the policy as a condition of employment. All personnel will adhere to NC General Statute 159. You'll sign off on it as a condition of employment, and it goes into your personnel file.
Right.
The resolution, I have a copy of a purchase order along with the actual obligations set forth by.
I think everybody got that in their package, right?
Yes, it's behind
should have a
your
copy.
agenda.
Okay, and this is to understand, and one of the things I'd like to say about this first and foremost is that this statute is already in law in the state of North Carolina, and this is just a clarification that employees understand that this is the law. All right, we have a motion to accept the addendum. Have a motion, we have a second. We have a second. Any question or comment? All approved? All opposed? Okay, next, Mr. Manager.
Next is the agreement with the town of Robbinsville Wastewater Treatment Facility. We have came to an understanding with the town in regards to this agreement for the county being able to pick up the dumpster that's going to be located over here next to the new septic receiving station that the town has built, and the closing down the one that we have, which will stay closed. That's needed for emergencies.
So moved.
Okay, that was an update.
If I may, there was a question about the non-hazardous that was in there by the town.
Right.
So our end was fine. We had already moved it and passed the agreement on our end. Their end, I explained to them that as long as it goes through their facility and it comes out into the dumpster, it is considered non-hazardous because it's treated. But what they were saying, what if somebody puts something in, and I said, but our dumpster, that dumpster they pick up is only the waste that comes out of that facility.
Right.
And so they understood what we were meaning by non-hazardous.
Okay, great.
So they need one.
They will be approving theirs.
With lids on it, lock.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Manager.
Okay. Next, we have a request of the Board of Commissioners I want to bring to you. It's a proclamation declaring Graham County as a Purple Heart County. I was requested this by a gentleman by the name of Lenny Lazara. He's the commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. The Military Order of the Purple Heart was chartered through an act of Congress, and it's there to foster an environment of goodwill among the combat wounded and veteran members of their families. It promotes patriotism, support legislative initiatives, and most importantly, make sure that we never forget. I would ask the board to approve this proclamation declaring Graham County as a Purple Heart County in full support of the Military Order of Purple Heart.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the proclamation declaring Graham County as Purple Heart County. We have a motion and a second. Any question or comment? I think this is good. All approved? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next on the list is a letter of support that we're asking from the Board of Commissioners for a new Veterans Counseling Center to be built in Asheville. They are seeking out to get some federal funding in order to build this. It's going to be a much needed facility, and I would highly recommend that we support this endeavor.
Are you familiar with this?
I am.
You are?
I am.
How about a little bit more explanation? I was wondering.
Okay, I didn't bring the pamphlet with me tonight, but what it is, it's psychological help for PTSD victims and their families, or any other veterans who have psychological problems, or family problems, or whatever they need. There are counselors on board for that, and there is federal monies available. And what we just need to do is get it a little bit closer home. And if we can get the funding for it, it will be built in Asheville, which is more accessible.
Close to the hospital, VA hospital.
I don't know the site yet, but I know it would be in Asheville. And there's no county monies
That's right.
required for it. It's all
Okay.
federal funding, and funding's available, we need it.
Right, it's there. Okay, we have a motion that we have a letter of support for the new Veterans Counseling Center. We have a motion, we have a second. All right, we have a second. Any discussion, comment? All approved? All opposed? Thank you very much.
I know discussion's over, but I will let you just say this. I only had 2 pamphlets, and we had a court case in the county where the young man was helped tremendously by being able to use one of those facilities, although he had to travel far.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Manager?
Okay. Next, we've had 3 polls. The first is the senior building, the shelves, in the amount of $1,403.28, using general purpose money throughout the new facility. The next would be the Reed Miller appeal and the denied request on the PUD status. And the third one was the credit card removal from the jail, which was taken by a poll. I need to get a motion to accept the polls.
All right. These individual polls had individual results. So with that, we are going to be approving the poll votes as were taken. It does not mean that there was majority on all of these, but the polls went through. And I want us to understand that in that, we go ahead and consolidate these polls A, B, and C as presented. Do I have a motion?
All 3 of them together?
Yeah, we've already voted on them.
It's just to recognize.
We can go and do
Yes,
it.
yeah.
You want me to read off the poll and tell how it was voted?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay. For the senior center, for the general purpose money for the shelving, there were, Kim was able to get in touch with 4 of the board members, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Holder, Commissioner Eller, and Commissioner Williams, all voted in favor. She was unable to get in touch with Ms. Orr. For the credit card for the jail, Clerk Kim was able to get in touch with Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Holder, Commissioner Eller, and Commissioner Williams. All voted yes except for Commissioner Williams. He voted no. And on the third one, which was the denial of PUD appeal by Reed Miller, the 4 members were able to be reached for this poll as well. Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Holder, Commissioner Eller, and Commissioner Williams all agreed to deny the appeal.
And may I say, the reason Commissioner Orr was not being able to contact, she has had some pressing family matters that she has been taking care of. She had been called, and I've left messages, but she has had some pressing family issues.
Do we have a motion already on these
No, we don't.
proposals? Do we have a motion that we accept the poll votes as presented? Have a motion, we have a second. Okay, any question or comment? All approved? All opposed? Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Manager, this is an update.
Yes, sir. Massey Branch boat ramp improvements. Due to the lake levels not dropping because of the large amount of water that we have, they have actually revisited the design and what they're going to be able to change. I've laid that on each of your desks. To be honest with you, this is what we sort of asked them to do in the beginning, and that is to basically take the ramp that's in the middle of the walkway that's in the middle of that ramp right now and set it on riprap all the way over the side. And this is going to give a 32-foot access into that lake. And then they're also going to take down that asphalt some so there's not as many people driving. I wanted to present it to the Board of Commissioners to see if you had any comment. In a lot of ways, the U.S. Forest Service is, they're wanting a nod to go ahead and proceed. Based on the information that I have been given here, it just seems like it would be an appropriate fix. But this is all the information that I have, is what you can do.
Okay, is there any comment or question regarding this on the update? I'm glad that they're looking about getting it done.
Would that lessen the hazard as far as drowning?
I believe it will, yes, ma'am, you know, from the.
And the
back-
asphalt will be not as steep and the water doesn't.
Well, the
it doesn't
ramp
fall off
itself
quickly.
is going to have the same pitch, you know, going down into the lake. There is going to be more room for error whenever backing a vehicle in there, you know, so you know, you're less likely to damage. The area that they're talking about, taking the asphalt down is at the very top, because the parking lot has to slope in for drainage. And then you have the slope of the boat ramp. Well, it almost comes up, you know, not quite to a point, but there's almost a little peak there. Well, there were some instances where some boats and, you know, vehicles were dragging on that. So they're gonna try to take that down just a little bit so there's less damage that can be done to vehicles. Having the ramp all the way over to the side is going to allow for better access for backing of boats and things like that onto, you know, the dock. Now, I can't say that, you know, it's foolproof or anything like that. I don't know that anyone could, but it's certainly going to be a better circumstance than what's that now. Next, is there any other questions on that?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
If everyone is good and there's no comments, then I'll let the Forest Service know that we've reviewed it and there's no comments. Next is the replacement of Donald Chris on the Health Board for his remaining term to December of 2014. And Kim, do we have a recommendation?
Ms. Parman recommended Melvin Millsaps, who that came off just this past year, but I told her I would leave it up to the Board of Commissioners. I mean, that was the only name she recommended, and I told her, and that was fine, I had no problem with Melvin, but we have a nurse
But
on
I did have
the,
someone mention Dirk Cody to me to sit on that board.
Okay. Were there some others on that we were having that consideration tonight?
yes, we own some other boards.
Okay.
There's the Transportation Advisory Board. I have a list of names to be read.
Okay, we'll have to act on this first then. Board, what do you think on the recommendation of Ms. Parham's looking to, for Melvin Millsaps and then Commissioner Orr speaking of Dirk Cody? Dirk? Dirk?
Yeah, I'll make a motion with Dirk Cody
All
on.
right, you have a motion for Dirk?
Okay.
Second, all right. Any question or comment? Okay, all approved, all opposed.
Next is the Transportation Advisory Board. The following names need reappointment for 5 years. Marlene Vincent, Connie Orr, Ginger Cleveland, Wanda Hill, Harold Phillips, Dennis Myers, Peggy Hyde, and Alicia Parr.
Okay, we have a motion. Have a second. Any question or comment on these for renewal? All approved? All opposed? Thank you.
New road business, of course, that transportation advisory came under new business. I have just a couple of quick things. Number one, I wanted to update the board. I know last year that we had tried to go out and get legislation for occupancy tax to increase that to 6%
Yes.
throughout the county. Worked diligently with different agencies throughout the state to try to find some resolution to the issues that we had with the last bill, and which was basically forming a separate taxing district, which would have to have all the finances and things like that kept separate. In conversations with the NCACC and the bill writers, they understand the dilemma that it puts Graham County in because we don't have separate taxing districts. But there's no way to get around the language that's in that legislation. It is the format and the way that the General Assembly is addressing occupancy tax in the state of North Carolina. So if that is something, and I think that this may need to be something that the Travel and Tourism Board would like to discuss and bring a recommendation to the board, and we may have future discussions on, is that if we decide to go for legislation to be able to increase the occupancy tax for Graham County from 3% to 6%, then we are going to have to be willing to accept the aspects of that legislation to formation of tax in District G, which will be all areas outside of the town of Robbinsville, the town of Fontana Dam, and that any and all monies that are collected are going to have to be in that second 3% would have to be spent in areas outside of the town of Robbinsville and the town of Fontana Dam without any crossover. And
So that makes the situation of our legislation just not worth pursuing, right?
well, I mean, that's up to the board to decide. I mean, you know, right now, in all areas other than the town of Robbinsville, which I don't think they've quite enacted theirs just as of yet, but they will, they're in the process, or the town of Fontana Dam, the occupancy tax collected is 3%. Within the town of Robbinsville, soon to be, and the town of Fontana Dam, they collect 6%. If we decide that we want to have an even 6% countywide, no more than 6%,
That is the max by law.
which is the max by law unless you're Mecklenburg County. Then we would need to pursue the legislation, and the monies that are collected on the second 3% are going to have to be maintained within those areas outside corporate limits of Fontana Dam and town of Robbinsville.
But the town of Fontana Dam and the town of Robbinsville can go by their own legislation, which is pending
Yes,
for
sir.
the town of Robbinsville right now.
The town of Robbinsville, the town of Fontana Dam has already enacted those.
Right.
The town of Robbinsville is in the process. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Becky?
they've already formed their TDA board and
Right.
they're in the process of implementation and
Do you know what they charge?
there's a split.
3.
It'll be three, probably. So, I mean, and here's the thing, and this is the best that I can denote from it. In the circumstance in Watauga County, this is what, their legislation is what spurred on the whole reformation of occupancy tax, you know, and the uniformity across the state, is they had a second 3% adopted whenever the town of Boone and I think Banner Elk already had their 3%, so they couldn't go over 6%. So they identified a specific project within Watauga County that second 3% would go to. So they collected because you cannot commingle the funds. It's the same constitutional authority that says you can't tax in one county and pay it in another.
Well, that would simplify the process.
They look
You got
at
one
it like
project,
that
they
within
pay for that.
the county and the body politic as a whole.
If my memory serves me, I wish I had a little picture, Drew, I don't even know where it is, but anyway, this extra 3% would require a separate TDA to be established. So
Which
in
would
other
be the
words,
Board of Commissioners.
Right, we would
Which way the
have
legislation
the
is.
Graham County Travel and Tourism Board is already in place that would administer the first 3%, then they would have the TDA, which would be basically
It'll be the
you,
Board of Commissioners.
which would administer the second 3%. So we would, in effect, the way it was written, have two separate TDAs with two separate sets of books. With an extra audit with, of course, I think it said I would still be the finance officer.
Yes.
But I think it was restricted
To a certain.
just, specific
And
projects.
that would keep it from crossing lines.
Yeah. So I think that was, just the bureaucracy of it. We were hopeful that the state would come back and say, well, let's, rethink this, and you could still, you could shove that extra 3% under the existing TDA. But I guess what their mindset was is because of the town's
Yes.
scenarios, they just didn't want any opportunity for commingling, which there would be anyway, because whatever. That was kind of the reason, it was adding a whole new layer of administration.
Well, you know, one of the things that strikes my mind when listening to the conversation is that this would ultimately come out to be a decision or a recommendation from our existing travel and tourism board.
It could be.
I mean, it could be, but you know, the whole thing of establishment of another TDA, I mean, that's,
Well, that's what we say, according to the law. But the way
No, I don't
that
think
would
it is.
work, just prevent any commingling, would be a particular project that the 3% would be restricted to.
That would be the easiest way to manage it.
It would be, but then the board of commissioners would make that decision, okay? And just use as an example, possibly a welcome center or something like
And
that.
I brought that up because I asked that specifically. I said, okay, well, ideally, we got this legislation and this was with the bill writer, an attorney there at the General Assembly. I said, you know, if we took the second 3% and said, okay, we're gonna build a welcome center. She said, well, you're gonna have some issues there because facilities, the building of facilities with occupancy tax has only been done once.
But it was done.
It was done in Mecklenburg County, they got an extra 2% over the 6% to build our museum.
But any project that the county wanted to use that 3%.
Right.
But you couldn't do it in the city limits. You could do the welcome center, but it had to be outside of the town of Robbinsville city limits.
I mean, I can't stand here and say that we could in fact build that because she warned me well away from building a facility.
But if you, we can collect in the town, or Fontana's town can,
Well, we collect 3%. Okay, we're talking about another 3%.
but what's the difference in that 3% and putting 3 more on it and keeping the same over?
The last legislation.
last legislation.
The way the legislation is written, and I'm trying, if I'd have known this was coming up, I would pull out my notes, but if I'm thinking clearly, you would have the 3% TDA, the additional 3% TDA, you would have the original 3% TDA, then you would have those two amounts of money would flow into an overarching board, which you guys would administer. Really, you've got 3 layers.
You're gonna have 2 separate sets of books. And so you're talking about an additional amount of work on the finance office to basically monitor 2 separate TDAs. You know, like I said, if you go with currently, like, you know, without maybe a specific project in mind, and you're talking about splitting time for a travel and tourism director, so that there's no crossover. It can be done, but it'd be a lot of work.
Really, right now, the way it's structured, because we're at the 3%, the max is 3%, so the occupancy revenue that we were collecting from town, facilities in town, now will go to the town of Robbinsville or to the town of Fontana. Or if you have B&Bs, if State People were to form one, it would go to them. It's about $35,000 a year that the Graham County Travel and Tourism Board will be losing the way it's structured now.
But
So
they
the
shouldn't
upside-
lose anything that they're.
Yeah, because the max is 3%. You see what I'm saying? Our current legislation is, the max is 3%.
Oh, I know,
That's where we are.
but they're not gonna lose anything about the town enacting another 3%. The town's just gonna collect another 3% on top of the 3 we're already getting.
No. No, that's not how I read it.
That's,
Because if,
The max
if we
is
have the new
6%.
legislation, see, right now, we're maxed. The
At 3%.
At 3%.
That's right.
And the town is maxed at 3%.
That's right.
So we can't double collect.
And we're not, what I'm saying is that the current Travel and Tourism Authority should not lose any money with the current situation, because the town's just picking up another 3% on top of what we're already collecting.
No,
Okay, this is getting me all,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll tell you.
Anyway, that's just an update. We need to have more discussion on whether or not
Absolutely.
the board would like to pursue this occupancy tax
But
legislation.
our legislation's not being, it's not gonna be the short session.
It can be if the board decides to move on that. I mean, they can take up a local bill in the short session,
Well,
but
they generally do. Don't they? Yeah, local bills. Well, we need to have some kind of incident. I need a picture myself. If I can't fathom all the, it's kind of like not even a Venn diagram anymore, is it? You know,
it became very, very convoluted whenever the General Assembly decided to put these parameters on how occupancy tax is collected. Because at one time prior, it was all across the board, and even though our intentions were not to take any 3% from any other town that already had it, we just wanted to be countywide, and be able to use it countywide, we can't use it countywide.
okay. Well, you see, somewhere in the state, that worked out to somebody's advantage. And I haven't figured it out yet. But, yeah, if we can have that, then to have some further explanation, discussion about it, because we have that legislation laying there right now. We're asking for that to be implemented, right?
Well, no, I have not made the request. Whenever we were in the
Okay.
last session,
That's right.
by board vote, we pulled our legislation out because we were going to try to find a fix to the legislation as it was written.
Right.
And then, as it turns out, there's no fix that I have been able to locate, and I've been in contact with the NCSC.
So we're looking at basically the next long session.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the last session, last
Yeah, I'm
year.
right. But for us to even entertain an idea about changing the occupancy tax, we'd have to look down to the next long session.
I could talk to Roger West and see if he would be willing to entertain a bill in a short session.
Well, I need to understand how it works, because our finance office will be in 3 different places.
And that's the issue that I have with is the other level of administration that it's going to require. So I think that, just our job is to protect the county and be able to say, okay, long-term, is this a doable scenario so that no one ever gets in trouble. I think there needs to be further discussion. I know this probably went further than my intentions whenever I brought this up to the board tonight, but I wanted you to be aware of the follow-up that was done on the legislation that we requested last year and then pulled.
Okay.
So,
These big counties have realized what it brings in. That's where it's at. They want this 3% to use for whatever they
that's right.
use it for. I'm like Mike, I don't know enough about it, and I'm just leaving it like it is.
I gotta do some more homework. on
Yeah, I
it.
do too. I need to understand it more clearly before I could even entertain a decision on it. Okay, other old, new?
One other thing that I want to talk to the board about is regarding the old senior center that we have moved out of, and the conversations that I've had before and the board discussions that went on before about allowing veterans to use that facility.
We voted to do that.
We did.
Yes, ma'am. And
did.
And Wanda told me that she would bring me the key as soon as she got everything out of there.
fantastic. I am.
Sorry, I hadn't seen you, Greg.
No, I know. I spoke with Harold, Friday, and we're excited about the opportunity up there. And, it's a county-owned building, but we're glad that you guys will be able to use that to get use.
We seriously do appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We try to do what we can for veterans, but also work for everybody in the community as much as we can. We do need a home. We do appreciate this.
Right, and there's a possibility if we're able to get 1 bedroom for a homeless veteran, whether we have homeless, I'm not aware of any homeless veterans that we have in this county. However, if we have 1 bedroom and a place for 1 grants for the center.
That's great. I'd like to get more of that information and pass along to Andy.
And Brandon Wilson, I was impressed with him. And I think, you know, this kind of turns a new league for all of you. And I've been in the veterans office up here. I don't see how in the world.
He had told me that the veterans bring in 11 million to the county. That was Haywood County. We're close to it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
About $4
So we
million.
got 4 million. We'll take it.
Yeah.
But I've watched them try to park up there too,
Yes, sir.
and down there, there's plenty of room for them to
Now,
park.
Brandon has requested to be able to maintain that office
The
up there
office
next
table,
to
yeah.
mine, and we're fine with whatever he needs.
The reason for that
because
is
of the
he
grant.
has access to the register of deeds office and
Yes, ma'am.
almost with everyone who comes in there, if we don't have a really current file on them, he needs their discharge papers and he can get them in the register of deeds
How many days a week she comes?
twice a month.
No problem.
He's,
But you need to be down there.
That's just the way it
Oh, we have to, I get you.
goes.
You have to have this market,
You have to have an American Legion share the building.
Right.
And then, work out the details as soon as we get the keys.
I don't have the keys.
Get
You got the keys?
Me neither.
Wanda said she would.
Wanda has
She
keys.
has
I know-
a
I know
couple of
who
file
Wanda is.
cabinets
She's
and a
a
couple of
in-law,
basketball
like
like that.
that.
They're trying to get out of there.
Does she need some help, money?
I'll let you know. We'll get it going. I know you guys are ready to get in there too.
From what I understand, from what I was told today, that she is totally moved out of there.
Fantastic.
She probably would have brought me the keys today, but I was tied up.
Well, she was up there cleaning house.
I know Brandon, I think Brandon,
Yeah.
everybody a copy of that, that's, that, he's planning on having that in the.
A seminar.
But, talking about the benefits, there's a lot of things that a lot of people are not aware of, and if you was to have me advertise this, I mean, it's going to be a great benefit to a whole lot of veterans. We'll have a lot more people.
Yeah.
Sure it will.
And, you know, we're excited about the fact that he may be able to come into Graham County more often. But I would say this, the fact that he is here twice a month.
Yeah.
And before he came on board, we never knew if anyone was gonna be there or not, ever. You know, we'd find out the day before that, we'd get pretty frustrated over it, wouldn't we? Because folks need help, and since he's came on board, it's been a big change for the good.
Well, even before we had him, if I could be there, and that was a lot of last year, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Greg, Kim, Becky, Michelle, everybody that helped the veteran that walked in there, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have. The only other thing is, we'll be reaching out to the board, to be discussing some, trying to set a date for some public hearings in regards to, loan acquisition for the new purchases. So,
Okay.
I can get that information together, we can try to get something out, we'll call around, we'll try to set a date to have that public hearing for purchase of the transfer station and the Wachovia.
I thought we had a meeting with the state.
There was some meetings that have happened in the past, but with the new loan application that we submitted, they have asked for a,
DOT. Oh, I'm down here, DOT. Are we supposed to have a meeting with just them?
That's tomorrow.
yeah, are you talking about in regards to the Court K?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I've pulled a meeting together, tomorrow, with some different agencies, and it's just a general discussion on how we can possibly move forward.
What time?
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, you know, after the workshop that we had with the opt-in study, there was some good conversations that were had, and we are, you know, some good things came up, some movement happened which is good for something that's not been moving in 15 years. So we're excited about that. And like I said, it's just a preliminary get together.
You're great.
Yes, sir. Be here. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
On old business,
Yes, sir.
I run into Larry Queen, and he and Kenny McKellar's looking at the fence around the,
I seen him at the store the other day. I told him to take a look at it for us.
well, I told him that, when I told him to do it 2 months ago.
Yes, sir.
So he's looking at it, and he'll get us a figure, he'll probably bring, I'll tell him, bring it to you.
That'll be fine.
And, cause it's been over a year, and we
Yes, sir.
ain't done nothing. We need to get something done.
I agree. Whenever I talked with Larry, of course, after you asked me to do that, I went to Donnie and told him to reach out to someone, and I assumed whenever Larry approached me, he came up to me. And Larry just told me a while back he's waiting on weather break. So-
Yeah, that's what he told me.
So he wasn't in a hurry, and I told him just as soon as he could, take a look at it.
But he is gonna be working on it, and he is one of the best, well, he put a lot of it up.
Yes, sir. Good deal. Anything else for board?
If I may, I have two more boards, the legislative liaison that Commissioner Edwards served on, that was up, so we needed to reappoint a legislative liaison.
Second,
Yes.
call for the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, calling for a vote, we have a vote? Yea or nay? Okay.
We also had a voting delegate that you had named Greg as legislative voting delegate. I think a couple times when Commissioner Edwards could not attend, you gave that to Manager Cable to go do the vote. So do you want to entertain that?
So moved.
Okay, hold on just a second. I can do that at a later date, if that would be permissible on
Yes.
the board's part, because I don't know what's gonna happen between now and that time.
That would be my recommendation, too. because
Withdraw.
Thank you.
That's gonna happen whenever the association comes together and they
Right.
discuss the legislative goals, which I don't know if that's gonna happen prior to the short session.
Well, I don't know.
I haven't had any indication
Well,
of
I
that,
don't
but,
think so. No. I think they're gonna let the dust settle over a lot of other things before that happens.
yes, sir.
The Board Region A Partnership for Children that Manager Cable sits on, that is up and it needs to be reappointed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any question or comment? All approved? All opposed? Okay.
And for the record, this board had put in place an interim to sit on the RDA and Travel and Tourism Board in the place while Commissioner Orr was taking care of her sister. Now that she is back, that just flows away. I don't think there has to be a motion
Correct.
because you were already sitting on the boards. They were just serving as interim in your stead.
So you part mine.
I appreciate that, Mike.
And Keith.
And you.
I appreciate it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad we're able to do that.
That's all.
Okay, I have one other thing I'd like to reiterate, and I know there's going to probably be a discussion at budget time in that, but again, I mentioned during our work session about our finance office. I would like for us to have a look at that, and I know we're going to be looking at all departments with regard to what we might be able to do. But I do thank our finance office for all that they are doing, as I thank all the departments in our unit, and I hope we can entertain some hard looking about that, about freeing up our CPA to be able to do some of the things that she's not being able to do. So I know that that'll be a discussion, but I just want to make sure that I say that because there's a lot of times that I know that this board is sitting here, and I'm constantly looking to my right to see about how we're standing financially. I want to thank this board for everything that they've done with regard to bringing the county to where it is right now. I would like to mention that a lot of the things that we have, thinking about planning for the future, would not even be a possibility without the fact that we have a fund balance that is even going to allow us to borrow money. We came into this situation about 4 years ago, and I think we're right at 7 or 8% fund balance. There's no way that's going to loan you money. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's been a goal of this board. And I thank everyone that's involved. I want to thank every department head, everyone that has seen I don't want to call it the vision, but I can't think of a better word, to see where we need to be in order to do that. So there are things that hopefully that are going to be in the offing pretty soon that are going to help the county in the long run. And all of this has come about because of the decision-making and the hard work that's been done to bring the county financially to where it is and to be able to do some things for people of Grant County. So having said that, do I have a motion to go into closed session under GS 143-318, 11A, 1, 3, and 6, privileged or confidential information, attorney-client privilege, personnel, and contracts. And that's with a 5-minute recess. Have a motion? Have a second? All approved? We'll go into closed session after a 5-minute recess.
On behalf of the veterans, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Even you, right?
Oh, that's good.